Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Am young Hesio filibustere osion gashir hyun yun habridha. Which of course means hello and welcome to Filibuster here on the Nerd Party. Now unfortunately Director Bong's translator Sharon can't be with us for this episode, so we'll be doing the rest of the podcast in English with Korean subtitles. On today's show we discuss the Academy Awards and finally get to talk about Bong Joon-ho's now Oscar-winning Parasite. Now, of course, a Parasite can't exist without a host, and I don't mean Bong Joon-ho's 2008 film, but of course your co-hosts. I'm Dallas King, and with me is the young boy to my old boy. It's Lee Hutchison. How are you?
Yeah, Lee Hutchison, not an only child, Edinburgh, Scotland. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. So did you stay up to watch the Academy Award ceremony?
No, I used to when I was a young guy. I would kind of watch it on a school night. It was sort of quite exciting, but since then, I think when it kind of moved away from, it used to be on like Sky One or some of the accessible channels, then I went to Sky Movies for a while, and then it kind of lost me there. I wouldn't be able to kind of tune in live. So no, I had quite a busy day yesterday, and I had a rare sleep through the night, so I didn't get the news of Parasite and, you know, a pretty successful Academy Awards until early in the morning when I woke up for work. So yeah, it was a good sleep and then a nice wake-up call.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't watch it either. I think I'm kind of in the same boat where when I used to live with my parents and they had sort of the Sky channels, I would stay up and watch them. You know, there's a few years I would sort of either try and find like a live stream or maybe even just sort of follow people's tweets and stuff like that in order to make my way through the ceremony. But I don't know, there was just something about this year, I don't know how you felt about it, but it felt kind of, I don't know, just a bit meh. I don't know if it was the selection of films that were on choice or the fact that everything kind of seemed almost like pre-written going in. Certainly the acting nominations and winners were pretty much set in stone. I mean, nobody but Laura Dern, Brad Pitt, Renee Zellweger and Joaquin Phoenix really had a shot. I think, though, you know, there's always maybe the chance for a few surprises on Oscar night, but they sort of did sort of arrive all at the end in the sort of, I guess, preferential ballot-sized curveball that was thrown at the end. I know we discussed this last year with I think if you go back to that episode, I sort of tried to sort of give reasons for why Green Book managed to pick up the award over the front runners, and I think the preferential ballot maybe had a hand in Parasite winning. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think based on our Green Book episode last year, you're very clued into sort of how the Oscars all work and all these different rounds, where I suppose kind of maybe Joe Public like myself just think of it, oh, it's like, you know, most votes win kind of thing, when obviously that's not the case. Yeah, I wasn't really up for it at all. I think it felt like everything was going to be inevitable, and I think, you know, I certainly thought it was going to be 1917 was going to sweep the boards. I'm kind of on record as not particularly enjoying the film. It's fine, but Best Picture worthy, you know, even as a nominee, you know, I completely disagreed with. So I was just kind of like, oh, there's nothing that's going to happen. I expected Parasite would probably win Best International Picture, and that was probably going to divide its vote in a way. So yeah, it's kind of like when I woke up this morning, I think I checked my email inbox and I had an email from BFI saying, hey, Parasite's won big, and kind of followed through the news there. So I was really surprised. I watched some of the stuff over my lunch break today, some of the award winners giving their speeches and the kind of the big moments of the night. So that was kind of a good way to do it. So yeah, I think if I'd stayed up I would have been richly rewarded, but you know, I suppose I was just can't be blamed for expecting the worst from the Academy Awards.
Absolutely, given that, you know, as A24 fans, you know, I think our real Oscar night was probably almost the day before at the Film Independent Spirit Awards, where, you know, The Farewell took Best Picture, Uncut Gems got Best Editing, Best Directors, and Adam Sandler, both of those sort of gave fantastic speeches. Adam Sandler gave a great speech, and then I love the fact that the Safdie brothers gave their speeches at the exact same time, which just gave you flashbacks to uncut gems of everyone talking really loudly at the same time. And then The Lighthouse even picked up a couple with Willem Dafoe and getting Best Supporting Actor and then Best Cinematography for The Lighthouse as well. So that was my almost like I thought, wow, it's not going to get really any better than that, so I'm not going to stay up. But it was almost like a case of, and I do this some years, I do try to stay up and watch the Super Bowl. But sometimes I get to the end of the halftime show and I go, one team's like really quite out in front. I can see the way this is going to go. I'm just going to get a few more hours sleep. And then you wake up and find out that in the last 5 minutes, everything sort of turned around. And then, that's what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs this year. They managed to sort of turn around in the final quarter and then come out with a win. I think it's like if I'd gone to bed after Parasite won Best International Feature Film thinking, well, that's as good as it's going to get. And then woke up 3 hours later to find out it won Best Original Screenplay, Director and Picture, I'd be like, oh, damn it, I really think I should have stayed up to watch that live, because there seem to be certain people on Twitter getting into this sort of groove of it might actually happen. And I think we have to actually almost thank the Netflix films for Parasite's win, because The Irishman, everyone said that was the front runner to begin with, had like 10 nominations, and it was the only Best Picture nominee to actually go away with 0 awards, which is quite harsh. But I think people still have this it's the whole reason why Roma didn't win last year, is because with the preferential ballot system, you rank all 9 nominees, and some people who don't like Netflix probably put The Irishman and Marriage Story at the bottom just because they're Netflix films. They're great films, but they probably put them down there. So I think a film has to get over 50% of the first place votes to be an outright winner in the old sort of first past the post system. But in this point, 1917 was probably doing really well with a lot of people, but didn't have enough votes initially. And then once you start taking out the sort of bottom tier characters, like probably Marriage Story, Netflix, and even Ford versus Ferrari, I think a lot of people who like those films probably had Parasite quite high as well, and I think that's probably what pushed it on to the Best Picture winner, which is the first international feature film to win Best Picture ever. They're now called Best International Feature Films. They're no longer foreign language films. They're trying to break down this 1-inch barrier of subtitles, which I thought was quite nice. But it was a great night for Parasite. Were there any other sort of awards that you were happy to see, or maybe some ones that you weren't happy to see to go to certain people?
Well, yeah, there's a few things I could kind of slightly bicker with. I really would have loved to have seen Little Women collect Best Score. I would have also liked to have seen Little Women collect Best Adapted Screenplay. I know me and you aren't fans of Jojo Rabbit, but I think it's night and day between those two for an adapted screenplay. I have read neither of them as in book form, but you have to kind of look at the way that sort of Greta Gerwig has adapted Little Women, and how she's kind of made the sort of these parallel timelines work so well. I think that was such a unique adaptation, and I really feel that one was the most fitting and deserving of it. So yeah, it was really unfortunate to see Little Women go away empty-handed. I think we touched on this before, like Laura Dern's performance, it was good in Marriage Story, but I've seen that kind of performance several times before, so it was disappointing to see her win as well. I would love to have seen Florence Pugh win those awards. So yeah, it kind of feels like Little Women was out of the nominated films, was the ones that I felt was most jilted.
Yeah, no, I think it went away with Best Costume Design, but other than that, yeah, I really would have liked to have seen it win Best Adapted Screenplay. I'm a Taika fan, you're a Taika stan as well, but yeah, we were both sort of not too keen on Jojo Rabbit. I haven't read the original book, so I don't know how it is in terms of adaptation, but I think we both felt that it didn't really nail the emotional beats and the darker stuff that came in the second half. It had gone too broad with the comedy. I know it's a delicate balancing act. Some people really like it, some people hate it, but I think I agree with you that the Little Women adaptation was a really fresh and different take on the material from sort of previous ones that have been out there. So I think that's why I would have had it, and I would have liked to see Greta Gerwig get an Oscar for some much needed female representation. I did see, was it Natalie Portman's coat Did you see this on the red carpet where she
Yeah.
had the surnames of all the snubbed female directors on it? I thought she's always great for that kind of thing, because she was the one that wasn't it famous. They said that, and now the all male nominees. So yeah, she's always able to stick the knife in wherever she can. So. I mean, I'm a big Laura Dern fan. You know, I enjoyed her performance in Little Women. I think Florence Pugh was fantastic. Oh, no, in Little Women. Actually, no, well, she was in Little Women. I did enjoy her performance. She wasn't nominated for that film, but I did enjoy her performance in Marriage Story. But I think she's just had a real sort of comeback sort of couple of years. So I think that's probably helped why she's won that one. And I couldn't be more happy for Brad Pitt. I think, you know, it's another one of those. He's kind of playing himself, but I think he's just been such a treat on the awards circuit this year. His speeches have always been fantastic, and he just seems like he's been loving every sort of minute of it. So I'm really happy for him because, you know, he's someone who could have, you know, probably deserved it in the past for other films. So I'm glad that he's got one around this time. Joaquin Phoenix, good performance. You know, from the outset I always thought Adam Driver gave the better performance. Joaquin Phoenix has given better performances in other films, but you know, Joker had to go away with something, I guess. But overall, you know, I thought it was good. And I think Renee Zellweger, you know, I haven't seen Judy, so I can't actually comment on that performance, but I think there were better lead performances out there, and I think it's just a shame that, you know, if you play, you know, a pre-existing person, you automatically seem to be a shoe-in for the awards these days, don't you?
Yeah, I've not seen Judy either. I don't know anyone that has seen Judy, so it seems like the only people that did were within sort of the Academy Award kind of a committee.
Yeah, it's one of those things that as soon as it came out, it was like, well, she's gonna get it as well. So I was kind of maybe hopeful for an upset in that category, but it wasn't to be. But overall, it was actually quite reasonably pleased with the results. The ceremony, however, I have not really done much sort of checking on YouTube for the highlights, because as far as I'm aware, there don't seem to be many. So there seems to be some weird musical numbers and some awkward, as always, banter. It's like, you know, these people can, you know, give the performance of their lives in front of a camera, but, you know, stick them in front of a teleprompter, and for some reason they always seem to fall apart. It's really weird. It's the kryptonite of many a film actor that they just can't seem to deliver a funny joke, well, or apparently funny joke, convincingly in front of the Oscars audience, do they?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, like myself as well. Like if I was just put in front of people, I feel like I could do okay, like doing public speaking, because I have to do it as part of my job sometimes. But put like a teleprompter or a note in front of me, and I completely fall apart.
Yeah, but on to today's main review, which of course is Parasite, which, you know, us being in the UK, we finally get to see in a cinema on a proper release. Everyone has been moaning for months, you know, that we've been the last to get it, and the US even have had black and white screenings and Parasite with a live orchestra score. But I have a funny feeling that Curzon and Artificial Eye may have the last laugh on this, because they seem to have played the perfect game here, as I'm sure the awards buzz will generate some serious bank. Parasite is written and directed by Bong Joon-ho and stars Song Kang-ho, Choi Woo-sik, Choi Yoi-jung, and Park So-dam. And I'm pretty sure, fingers crossed, I've not butchered any of those names. Struggling to make ends meet, the Kim family are living a hand-to-mouth existence, but their luck changes when their son is employed as an English tutor for the ultra-wealthy Park family. Using their wits and cunning, the Kims slowly infiltrate the Parks until they have all got roles within the household. And I don't want to say any more about it just yet, because the best way to experience Parasite is as blind and cold as you can. So Lee, when did you first get to see Parasite?
I caught it at the tail end of December, when it was lucky enough to be screened as one of the audience surprise films, where what they do is they do a surprise screening, but what they do is they drop a few hints and tips. And I turned up to a screening that was filled with a lot of white male hipsters on a Monday night. You know, the screen was half empty, and very rarely do I get excited when it's like a film starts rolling. But I was 99% sure that it was going to be Parasite, and I wanted to see it. I thought it would have a chance in sort of my top films of 2019 list. So I went along, and then when it went to the BBFC, the film is Parasite, you could hear these men in the cinema go, and me included, go, yes! So I got to watch it kind of then. So it's very rare that I will go see a film in the evening, but especially on a Monday one as well. And I think I requested, I was like, Dallas, can we record on a Tuesday because I need to take a gamble on this being Parasite? So that was how it kind of unfolded for me. And yeah, it earned a place at number 6 in my top films of 2019. Very high up, one of only 6 films I gave a full 5 out of 5 to. So it's safe to say I was a huge fan of this. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm so happy to see its success pay off. I think it's been on a huge hype machine really since Cannes, and I think we're very Curzon have either lucked out or it's one way or another they've lucked out with the film being released so late. I think we're practically one of the last nations on earth to get this film, and their gamble has paid off. Whether foolish or not, it's all worked out for them.
Yeah, the Curzon are probably the Howard Ratner of film distributors, with a 3-way parlay on the Boston Celtics in Parasite to take all the awards, and then cash out for $1 million or so, I think. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's right. It has been, one of the most hyped films of the year. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. It was then at Venice. We were all thinking, well, it's got to be at London. It's not at London. Okay, well, it's going to be the surprise screening. It wasn't. It was Uncut Gems. I think that was the happiest I've ever seen you at a BBC certificate. And then it was like, oh, right, well, we've then got to wait till February. It's like, I know, white male privilege, white first class human privilege here. It's like, what the hell? Why can't I see this film out before? And then Odeon did it in December. I don't have an Odeon, so I had to wait even longer. And then it was, I think, the end of January. Cineworld were giving it an unlimited screening. And the fact that 2 big chains were giving a foreign language film a preview screening really sort of speaks to the hopes and the quality of this film. So you said you gave it 5 stars. Did it live up to the hype? Did you have much hype going in personally, other than what you've heard? I mean, had you read anything? Had you even watched the trailer by this point?
I had seen the trailer once, but that was enough. I think because the sort of the UK rollout, like it seems sort of the turn of the year they started kind of Curzon pushing kind of promos and trailers. So I think I'd only watched the trailer once, and that was enough for me. I was already kind of hooked in. Okja, his last film, was one of the highlights of the Edinburgh Film Festival for me a couple of years back. So I was already kind of in for his next film. I've really enjoyed his work. I'd only sort of recently seen Snowpiercer as well, so I was really excited to have kind of finally caught up with that. So yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing a new original film, one that was getting great reviews, praise. Did I expect it to become a film that would be nominated for a lot of awards before going in to see it? No, but kind of going into it, you were like, yeah, I think this film has something. I didn't expect it to have as much success as it had. I think Last Night has been a bit of an outlier in terms of the award season for it. I think you look at the BAFTA winners the previous week, I think the Academy Award results last night have made them look even more stupid with how much they doubled down on 1917. I think BAFTA has made the mistake of trying to predict the Oscars instead of voting for the best films. So yeah, I think it's been a real pleasant surprise, this success. I don't think anyone would have predicted it would have been pretty much a clean sweep last night. So yeah, its success has surprised me, but I'm really happy for it. It's like one of the good guys in this race.
Absolutely, and I finally managed to see this ahead of release. I wasn't one of the last to see it, but I was close. I saw it at a BAFTA Scotland screening in Glasgow at the end of January, and it was another packed screening, and I just was blown away by how good it was. I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star, instant 5 stars. From me, I had avoided really even like the trailer and stuff like this. A friend on one of our little Facebook groups and stuff, Oasis, he'd put up he'd retweeted something from the official Parasite account, which had just a split-second image that I had to kind of quickly scroll past, and then berated him in the Facebook group for putting it up because not everyone had seen it yet. I wasn't sure if it was a spoiler because it's completely out of context. I didn't know that, but I wanted to go in as cold and blind as they keep saying. It's difficult, to tell people to do this. Oh, you shouldn't read any reviews. You shouldn't do it. You should just go and see it blind. When it's been nearly nine months since it came out in Cannes, and it's now won all these awards and stuff like that. It's how do you go in knowing as little as possible, and I guess that makes it potentially tricky for us to talk about Parasite without giving too much of the game away, because as we say, it's just out in the UK, so people will probably be listening to this and then maybe catching it this weekend off the back of the Oscar jump. So I guess we can talk about certain aspects of it. So in terms of easy to talk about is the quality of the film, the acting, the cast of Parasite won the SAG Ensemble Acting Award, which is a huge deal for a foreign language film. The editing won an editing award in America. It's won Best Original Screenplay several places, and the fact that this is a film not in English language, to be able to do that is really quite impressive. So, what did you make of the two families to start off with, the Kims and the Parks?
I think they're so incredibly well cast as well that I'm not too familiar with the cast, to be honest. They weren't names to me. I think I've seen some of them in some other films potentially before. Obviously Song, I think he was in Snowpiercer.
Yep, Snowpiercer, Memories of Murder, The Host, things like Thirst. He's basically Bong Joon-ho's lucky charm, I guess. He's like the guy who will appear in all of his films in some way or another, but this is sort of probably one of his best roles. He really is a sort of chameleon. He can do comedy, he can do tragedy and stuff like that, and he gets to sort of work with really quite a lot in this one, don't he?
Yeah, and I think that it was so well cast as well. And I think the thing is that, whatever this says perhaps about me, but I think you have empathy with everyone involved. Yeah, you have the Kim family, which are downtrodden, poor, living in really horrible conditions, and then on sort of the other side you have the Park family. They're living in kind of all this wealth, beautiful house, they have it all. Even then you still kind of, you don't pity them as such, or hate them as such. It would be easy to have quite a very divided sort of family here in a way. And look at them going, oh, I hate them. I want less of these people on my screen. Oh, God, I really hope they get their comeuppance here. I think the only people that I sort of struggled a bit with, because I really like, obviously, this scheme that the Kims have concocted and continues to get better and better, is when sort of the housekeeper when the housekeeper plays a bit of a role in the film as well, and it starts to put a bit of a kind of spanner in the works. And I was almost frustrated then because it was all going so well that it felt like a victimless crime in a way, and then the film takes this interesting twist, and it was like, I would have just been quite happy to watch this entire film unfold of like, God, this is quite a funny prank that they've got going on here. I wonder how much they can continue to get away with. But yeah, it made for exciting drama, and I thought it was all very well cast. And as much as you sort of pity and feel for the Kim family, I also think the Park family were very well played in humor wise as well. You weren't necessarily laughing at them, you were sort of kind of laughing along with them at sort of how much they were kind of getting involved in this.
Yeah, I think that is probably one of Parasite's greatest strengths, is the quality of the performances and the writing of the characters, in that it's always interesting. There's people have had a lot of interesting conversations coming out of the film about who was in the wrong, who was in the right, because, like you say, the Kims, they're downtrodden, they're down in their luck, they're just trying to earn money for their family, and they are a very strong family. They do everything for each other, and yes, the way they go about that is not the best, in the fact that they lie and cheat and steal in order to do that. But on the flip side, the Parks themselves, I guess the Marks, as it would be if this was like a con movie or a grift movie, because in some ways I guess it is, they're actually quite sympathetic characters. The wife is a bit ditzy and all that, but she seems to be coming from a good place. The dad is a bit absent, but he does love his family and stuff. So it's interesting to see, because they could have been, like you say, they could have been played out as complete villains, and then you would have sided with the Kims initially. But as the movie sort of takes on its twists and turns, it's interesting to see where people fall on it. And there's been a lot of I think, talk about of like the rich Hollywood elite sort of praising Parasite and stuff like that. But they're the very people who are keeping down people like the Kims and stuff like that. So it's interesting to sort of see that sort of side of it. But there's this whole thing about the Parasite can't exist without a host. Ironically, Bong Joon-ho did a film called The Host, so it's always a nice little in joke in there as well. But the Kims need the parks in order to get money, in order to survive and stuff like that. Yet it's quite clear that some elements of the parks' lives, they need the Kims in order to, because the wife and stuff can't really seem to be able to do anything without the help of the help, so to speak. So it's a really sort of interesting sort of look at sort of social commentary and whatever. And true, a lot of it could be directly aimed at the situation in South Korea, but I think it has clearly broken out beyond that into a very sort of universal take between the haves and the have-nots and stuff, the 99% and the 1%, and I think that's probably its greatest strength, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I've had a bit of issue with these people where I think I saw a tweet last week where Ryan Reynolds went, fantastic film, really enjoyed Parasite, and people were like, don't you realise this film is taking aim at people like you? And it's like, I'm sure, as much as some celebrities are completely oblivious, I'm sure a lot of them are sitting there watching this film going, you know what, I can take something from that. Maybe it makes them improve their behaviour and maybe how they treat their staff and team around them. I don't know. But I refuse to sit there thinking that the majority of them are in such a bubble that they don't realise the film is about them on some level. It's just, Ryan Reynolds isn't going to turn around and tweet and go, watch Parasite, fantastic film, and now here's a 16 thread tweets about how I'm going to reflect on my life and improve upon this, blah blah. That's not going to happen and stuff like that. I don't think, I'm sure we all take things from films, but we don't necessarily tweet out and share our thoughts to the masses. We can enjoy something but also quietly reflect as well, and I find that a bit of a tiresome tweet kind of complaint that's been going around recently, but no one seemed to have a complaint last night when those same elites voted for this film to sweep the board. Everyone was like, yes, that's fantastic, great work, the Academy. It's like no one was going, well, they voted for them, but they clearly don't realise this film is aimed at them, those mugs.
Yeah, I know. I did see that. I saw the Ryan Reynolds one, and then I saw someone quote tweet saying, "You got married on a plantation," and then it was like, oh, because then you scroll further down, and then someone actually goes, "Well, actually, did you realise that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively actually donated a lot to a charity and made sure that all of it was ethical and all that when they did it?" And then it's like, oh, you can just get into all these roundabout arguments. But yeah, it's like, what was great about the win last night is they voted for it. It won, yes, but it didn't. For me, it didn't feel like they were doing it because it's probably time that we voted for international foreign film. I always felt like when it won 12 Years a Slave won Best Picture. For me, that felt like, we really should be. We got accused of being Oscars so white a couple of years ago. We should really, readdress that and actually, vote for it, because I felt there was a bit of that when that happened, but this one felt it like loads of people I've seen on Twitter today were saying that it's like it's actually happened. The Academy have actually voted the Best Picture as the Best Picture, and I think you probably didn't have it as your Best Picture in the off that list. I think I probably had it around about number 2. I still had Marriage Story at number 1 because I'm
going to challenge you there. Challenge flag. Yesterday afternoon, I tweeted out how I would rank the Best Picture nomination. So, as I mentioned, Parasite was my 6th favourite film of last year, and it was automatically number 1 when it came to the nominated films. So, mine went Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Ford v Ferrari, 1917, Marriage Story, The Irishman. Oh, sorry, I've got my... Yeah. So Jojo Rabbit, Joker, 1917, Ford v Ferrari, Irishman, Marriage Story, Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and edging it was Parasite.
Ah, I see. Okay, well, I stand corrected then. As many of the Academy did, because everyone thought 1917 was going to win. But no, it was this one, which was great. I know a lot of has been made about the production design of Parasite and the house, which, I watched the film and then sort of went afterwards and then realised that read up on the production design and realised the entire thing was constructed on a soundstage, which is quite incredible. What did you make of the production design of of the park house and how it played into, was it another character in the story essentially?
Yeah, it was a stunning building. What blew my mind is, I think there's been a tweet out in the past few days that it blew my mind even further. We see the exterior, and it's only one level. Above it is like blue screen, so like they CGI'd the top of the house, and I was like, wow, that is like, I almost felt like going, give that best CGI, best special effects. I can't remember what won that award, but
It was
almost
1917 actually. It was. So I mean, yeah, I think it's the films like Parasite and 1917, which that's the real skill in CGI. I think is making something where you don't even question it. It's the, oh look, you've got all the Avengers, flying into each other and battling and stuff like that. Yeah, I can see that has to be done on a computer, but to be able to do things to trick the mind's eye and whatever and stuff like that, and be able to do that, I think that is where some of the real skill is. CGI that doesn't take you out of the moment and think, oh well, that's amazing, but that has to have been created by someone. Nobody had an idea that there was another level plopped on top of this house.
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Yeah, so I think, we can probably, we're sort of half an hour into the podcast now, so I think we'll probably put a little spoiler warning, and we can maybe dive into a couple more bits of the details of the plot and where it goes. So if you haven't seen Parasite yet, pause, go watch Parasite and come back. Have you done that? Excellent. I'm sure you enjoyed it. 5 stars, absolutely. So the film takes a twist and a turn along the way as you try and figure out where the scheme's going to go at one point. At one point, I actually thought, are they going to try and take over the family's lives completely? Because there was at one point, I think the daughter was taking down like their social security numbers, bank account details and something. I'm like, are they going to try and become this family? Is that what it's going to be? Is it going to be like a sort of thing style takeover of the host body, perhaps? But it doesn't go that way, and instead the housekeeper that they previously got fired comes back one night because she's left something behind. I'm not sure if we talk about exactly what it is, but basically, like you say, this is the spanner that is thrown in the works, and it's almost like one of these sort of Schadenfreude things where it's like you might think your life is bad, but there's always someone out there who is worse off than you, and again, you've got this. The playing fields are almost sort of leveled and the rug is ripped out from under them, and everyone starts scrabbling around to make the best of a bad situation. What did you make of the ultimate twist that occurred in there? Did you see it coming? I don't think anyone would have seen that one coming.
No, I certainly didn't. And I think what I enjoyed the most was, as I touched on earlier, I was really enjoying sort of how the Kims were getting away with this scheme and their shenanigans. And then when something kind of gets in the way of it, you're almost so invested in this family, you're like, oh no, come on. But I found this sort of one was like, oh, it really takes a twist, and then things escalate from there. And I thought it was such a pleasant surprise because it was one I didn't see coming, and I don't think it was kind of telegraphed at all in the trailers or the promotion. I just thought I took it at face value. This was going to pretty much be how the film unfolds. Was it like do it like you own the place or something like that. And I thought, yeah, that's the way it's going to go, and it's probably going to go to one of these sorts of lessons that aren't going to be overly surprising. So yeah, it was a really pleasant surprise. I mean, Hawkjaw was a film I adored. Yes, its message was a little heavy-handed. I don't think that was the case with Parasite, with what I had to say about class, to be honest.
I think what I really enjoyed about it is, the way it just completely sort of throws you for a loop, because you think you see where it's going to go, and you think that essentially it will be the Kims themselves that are the source of their own undoing, in the way that any of these sort of high school movies have, someone has got a bet on and he's going to transform the girl and whatever, or they're pretending to like each other, and then someone overhears someone talking, and then the lie is exposed and they're forced to confront the truth and everything falls apart, but then it all comes happy again by the end of it. And I'm actually really sort of, because you're starting to look for the cracks and where is the banana peel on the floor going to come from, and it came from a completely different place I was not expecting, and I really liked it because I really like the way that Bong Joon-ho then doubles down on that, and it becomes this really sort of twisted sort of, it's got elements of horror, thriller, drama, comedy, social class commentary, and but the way he keeps all the different plates spinning, I think, is what really sort of makes the film work. It never, even though it takes such a left turn at one point, it never feels like the story is cheating itself. It feels completely within the world that he's created that this would happen, and you never doubt it for a second. And I think it just all becomes really something truly special. And I think the fact that it is now breaking out into this film which everyone is going to see, and this is people who don't even go to see foreign language films. I mean, there's been foreign language films in the past, say Pan's Labyrinth, whatever, which have tricked people into going to see them by not actually including any subtitles in the trailers and stuff like that. But I think this is actually being quite upfront that it is a foreign film, it is a Korean film, and as far as I'm aware, I've heard rumours that it took over £1 million at the UK box office in 2 days, Friday and Saturday. Now, I wrote a story for Film Stories last year where I was talking about the decline of foreign language cinema at the UK box office, and that gone were the days of the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons, the Amelies at the beginning of this the century, where they could make sort of £8 to £10 million, and it was very rare for a film to make over £1 million in its entire run at the UK box office. £1 million was seen as a magic number that you could only dream of achieving, and very few films in the last sort of decade have actually managed to do that. For Parasite to do that in 2 days is really quite something, and this is a film which could potentially get back up to that point. Apparently, one of the guys from Curzon was saying it's on track at the moment for beating Passion of the Christ as the top grossing foreign language film in the UK. Can you see it sort of reaching that kind of levels? This sort of breakout hit of...
Yeah, I hope so. And my only, as incredible as The Weekend was, I think it could have been a little bit better. The UK has been battered by storms and hail, everything like that over the past few days. I didn't get much of a chance to go to the cinema myself over the weekend to catch this again. So yeah, I think it could have had actually a slightly better kind of box office had not been for the weather, but a successful result nonetheless.
Absolutely. I guess we'll have to see the final totals, but I think it's going to get a huge bump over the next week. But hopefully it will encourage more people to see foreign language cinema in the cinema, not just waiting for Netflix and stuff like that. We've got some cracking ones coming up. I know we were both very high on Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That's out at the end of February, another sort of Curzon release. So, they're really sort of championing foreign language cinema. So hopefully the Parasite bump will help a few more releases down the line. But we both sort of recommended Portrait of a Lady on Fire when it came out at the London Film Festival. We like to recommend other films or other TV shows. We like to give a recommendation every week. So Lee, what have you picked for us this week?
Yeah, at the weekend I got the chance to see Anna Meredith. She recently did the score for that new Paul Rudd TV show and did the fantastic score for 8th Grade. She's a fantastic Scottish musician, so I got the chance to see her live, and she's actually just released a brand new album called Fibs. So that's available to stream on Spotify, Apple Music, and to purchase on vinyl and CD right now. So yeah, if you really like some quality instrumental songs that kind of build to some sort of wacky crescendo, I would really recommend Anna Meredith's Fibs.
I see. I didn't realise that she did the score to Living With Yourself, because I really actually like that one. And having rewatched 8th Grade for the A24 project recently, I remember how good the score was. So yeah, it sounds like a treat. I'll have to check that one out on Spotify. But for myself, I'm going to stick to a trend of what I did earlier in this year, and given the success of Parasite, I'm going to have to recommend Snowpiercer to everyone. I know I mentioned it as our best of the decade episode, is probably the best film of the decade that people hadn't seen, but Snowpiercer is now currently screening on Film 4. They've managed to pick up the rights for that, and it's screening as part of a Bong Joon-ho season. So you can either watch it one of the screen times on Film 4, or it's also available right now on the All 4 app, so you'll probably be able to see that for a couple of weeks there. It has been on Netflix as well, but it's a fantastic film. It's basically Chris Evans is in similar way to Parasite, he's in the 1% living at the back of this train, which is on a continual loop going around the world. They're the last survivors due to a climate emergency, and the people at the back of the train are living in squalor. The people at the front of the train are living the high life, and the guys at the back decide, you know what, we want a bit of that, and it's basically them sort of taking over the train. It's great. Once again, Bong Joon-ho's sort of social commentary is in there, but it's his first sort of dabble into Hollywood. It's still technically classed as a Korean film, but it's got the likes of Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton in a fantastic supporting role, Ewan Bremner, and John Hurt and stuff like that, Ed Harris. So very well worth checking out if you haven't seen it, and I expect a lot of people will be exploring the Korean cinema back catalogue, so that's definitely one for a recommendation. You finally caught it a couple of years ago, didn't you?
Yeah, it was one of those ones I was forever waiting for it to get a chance to show at the cinema, and no, eventually I had to settle with for Netflix.
Excellent. But yeah, that's our recommendations for this week. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks to talk about quite potentially the next Best Picture winner, Sonic the Hedgehog, and also giving you our recommendations for the upcoming Glasgow Film Festival. So we'll see you then in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.